tried the meditation on the loving kindness and then loving meditation on the compassion. And today we also learned that we're going to learn the meditation on the empathetic joy. Okay, but I usually believe that if you have meditate on the loving kindness and meditate on compassionate, but this meditation on the empathetic joy would be significantly easier. But of course, if you have never learned, especially the first one, meditation on loving kindness, might be a little challenging to do meditation on empathetic joy. So it's almost the same as the meditation on the loving kindness. So as a beginner, usually the only differences is, so when you visualize the person, normally you start with visualize the person when the person are in a happy mood, you know. But I also still believe actually sometimes, not necessarily because facially the expression needs to be happy, but sometimes some people just feel the calmness in the mind is also. And maybe, let me just say, it's also you can divide this meditation. For some people, if they still have difficulty to meditate on the classes, like there are 5 classes. I usually, last time I said 7, but I think for the sake of easier, just do 5 classes, right? That is allow me to repeat again, that is the classes of the darers and the less darers, and the neutral, and the hostile and less hostile. No, the most hostile, sorry. So there are 5 classes, so that's much easier. Our purpose of doing the 5 classes, of course, one reason is if you meditate from the easier to the difficult ones, and that is also a kind of like the gradual way for you to challenge your focus and your kind of like you're having the right conversation to the object you meditate with also. So after when you finish the 5 classes, of course, then like that, the same way if you, that's not only way, but definitely is one of the very powerful way that if you want to stabilize your samadhi, especially if you really have a very big and well-rounded nimitta. So it's believed that it's always you just must have to 4 persons, you know, ultimately put it all together right in front of you to meditate. That is the person that the most dearest to you, and the person neutral person, and the one as the most hostile to you. At least, you know, even though everyone have a different degree of what I mean by hostile, but at least right now when you meditate, you at least can map it out who are they. And then you need to pick out one more. So as a 4 person from any classes, another one from any classes, and put it all together. This is how you can stabilize your focus. And there has a term for that even. This is how you develop the even. And if you meditate on the loving kindness, that's called the even loving kindness samadhi. But if you meditate on the compassion, that's called the even compassionate samadhi. But if you're doing now, what we're trying to do right now, later, it's what we mean the even empathetic joy samadhi. Okay, so empathetic joy, if in terms of the language, you don't have the wording for that. Like if you do loving kindness, when your mind is not really strict on the loving kindness, so you might using the wording to help you, like may you be free from animosity, anxiety, and so forth. Even compassion, somehow you need to almost kind of relate to compassion or feel the compassion from the person. And you still even, sometimes there's kind of wording also helping you to remind you are doing compassion and getting to kick away all the distraction by using the statement or the wording like, you know, may you be out of the suffering, right? However, when you do the empathetic joy, it's complete almost like without language. You just have to feel person joyous when person is success, right? I like to divide this success into 2 kinds. One what we call samisa, one is called the niramisa. Basically, one kind of the joy is purely spiritual joy. So, for example, like people, if they practice, somehow they get angry, and they could see that they are released from the anger. So that kind of joy is really very clean and pure. And all people, when they have a lot of distraction, and then you could, when they can calm down their mind by meditation or any kind of technique they're using, but they're able to just subdue their distraction, then they become really focused and mind become really, just a kind of very spiritually kind of feeling there. So right, that is what I mean by the niramisa, kind of mean out of the flesh or out of anything that based on like a food or seeing. So in other words, I will ask you remember sometime when you visualize people having this you want to grab, you want to like kind of share, or you want to kind of grab. I will use the word grab. Sorry, like take that person's joyness within you, or you just stay happy with this person like that. Then you must understand that one kind of happiness is purely spiritual, right? Because of the purely attainment, because of the samadhi is there, or because of releasing some of the problem, from the mind. You need to able to recognize that, because that's very important in your future practice, that you could see the difference between the joy from there and the joy from the flesh. When I say flesh, mean like you drink, like me, I have a coffee, good tea, good food, you see a nice movie, beautiful picture, and you hear nice music, and then or you have people do a good massage for your physical body. Those are called amisa. So basically mean that I translate that as with flesh, with this kind of organs instigation. One is purely mental, the other part is that's just stimulation to make you happy. But they are actually still is a kind of happiness too, right? And of course, and beside that, and something I need to also, in addition also, it could something maybe more like in between. I don't want to divide between belong to what kind. But for example, somebody like they will earn money, they get money, they were very happy. They were being encouraged, saying that, you are a good child, you are a good boy, so far you feel the love because your mother or your parents were encouraging you, and so forth. Those is also that also somebody in the joy stage, in the success stage. So, and I usually believe this is not, actually it's kind you could say, put it in the modern term, maybe almost like a happy meditation. But I want to put it very specific. Sometimes the happy not necessarily has to be really the big one, like, I'm going to party. Of course you can meditate people in a party. But they also have another type, it really looks like very calm, very quiet, like that. Especially if you practice a Buddhist meditation and so forth, you must be able to recognize that. Understand? So the step is very simple. It's almost like the loving kindness step, because I'm sure even by rational kind of understanding, certainly you could usually easily start with the dearest person, right? And then the same thing, you just visualize the dearest person face right there. Not necessarily the expression has to be happy, but just for advice purpose, then if you put a happy face, usually it's much easier. And then just understand what kind of happiness that person are having. Say that if I would start, maybe I would start with someone, and then that someone, at least to my understanding, when you meditate in a good state, what kind of state that will be, why I want to say that, it's always very important, because then you started to, I don't know how to say, almost like read a book, right? You're able to review what you have read, what you have read, and somehow that kind of knowledge is very important in your future meditation also. So let's say that if you can just, if you somehow have experienced a certain meditation, and then you remember somebody, maybe they have also have experienced the same meditation, and you just feel that kind of meditation, that joy is how that would be, right? And then you just, actually you are kind of like thinking that person having that kind of joy, you just like you You stay with that joy and you're just happy for that person. You know. Yes. Whatever they have the kind of joy, you're just happy with that person. Okay. So and then stay with it. And of course, at the time you might be feel different kind of joy come along, but you still remember you need to also kind of focus on the front as an object. But I would always suggest as a beginner, don't pay too much attention on the front rather than the feeling first. Take the feeling as if like you're driving a car. As a beginner, because you are not really fluent, so you don't look at the front too tense. You basically more knowing what's happening with your mind, whether the joy is there all the time, right? Yes. Oh, the hostile person is the same. I mean, I'm not sure, but I mean, I'm sure to say that the hostile person, everybody, even hostile person, will eat the good food. They're very happy, right? I'm sure they otherwise, I guess even in the what we call a kind of study say that if a person would never have any happiness, that person will die already, right? A person still survive all the time, even in the really grave war, in the wartime. They still, as I just said, even sometimes when you visualize, I've been in the war zone, I somehow know what happened. Even during the war, you scare all the time. But in this how the life is. Even you scare all the time, you still find the little moment that feel happy there. For example, that you might be really feel grateful. Suddenly you saw a friend. Oh, you're here. You still survive. That happiness is there, right? So. And that's really give the person hope to think that actually we can survive too, That is, the moment there's a joy there too. But I don't ask you need to meditate on that part, but you know what I'm saying. If in case you really, your mind will, when you meditate on a group especially, come to that zone, you might be questioning, do they have happening? Why not? Some people try to forget about what's happening now. They just want to have their good time in that, right? Or they might be very happy. Like when I was in Sri Lanka, I remember, now you ask me to go to any place, travel 2 hours, 1 hour to have a cake, that's impossible. But in those days, people told me that, let's go. Why? That person have a birthday party, one of my friends. I said, why we want to go there? He bought a cake. I don't know why we were so excited. Anyway, I still remember that. Then I need to take the bus, it's very travel to arrive there 1.5 hours. Just have the cake and then go back. But I have to say, if you ask me, that was one of my best time. Now, whatever cake you want to give it to me, I think it's okay, Okay, anyway. So, all right, so, yes, you have a question? No. You don't say anything. Maybe conceptually sometimes you just know, you might be. For practice, when I say don't say anything, mean right there, no, you don't. I guess that might be one of the reasons why we put this technique, this is my explanation, on the third, because from the first one, you do have a wording. And also maybe it's also, you need this to begin with as a mind a quality. The second one, you might have one wording, but the third, you don't have any wording. You just completely feel the happiness. Kind of like when people are happy, you're just happy with them. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, you could do that. You could do that. But I still suggest as a beginner, if you can stabilize one person, try to stabilize longer first. But there are two way of practice. Some people don't want to go to the hostile person, and for whatever reasons. So then you just meditate 1 or 2, that is still work. But there's another way that is quite a powerful focus is if you go through these classes, and then when you can pick up this, from the hostile and so forth, when you make it together, I usually believe that's more stable. When you say stable, there are many reasons. I don't want to explain right now. Yeah. If it's just 5 minutes. Oh yes. If you find that it's harder just to do like a choice, then you want to go back to compassion or loving kind, you just go back. Yeah. But since, this day will be practiced, we do these days, we do this way because we are here just only like 6 or 7 days. And I always believe that it will learn, even though you cannot learn it really well now, but it will be helpful for your life. When you see people happy, you're just happy with them, that's it. You don't deserve the suffering by yourself, and then you always develop the kusala, the wholesome thing in you, that's what I mean. You can score them with happy mind, I don't know whether you can, but that's another question we will talk later. Okay.